Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I remain Nemeka Onyeka Oderiri. Last night, I read through a very thought-provoking, beautiful piece by Chief Celestin Ebubog, Iheonukara Okpara, the CEO of Tiger Foods Brands. And it was a very stimulating write-up on his Facebook page on the need for the southeast of Nigeria to build and revive the industrial parks, just as Michael Okpara, Desamon Bakwe, and Jim Wobodo envisioned it. Michael Okpara, between 1959 to 1966, created 214-kilometer industrial belts. And he built the fastest growing economy in the whole of the Commonwealth between 1959 to 1966 in the old Eastern region. And actually was the region that earned the highest revenue compared to other regions between 1960 to 1966. Desamon Bakwe between 1979 to 1983 and Jim Wobodo created massive industrial parks. The Onitsha Road in Imo State Park, industrial park, is still there. And what Chief Celestin, the article was basically trying to encourage the current players in the political space, the governors, to look backward and begin to revive the industrial parks. Of course, he made reference to a visitation that he did along the Shagamu-Ijebode axis. Ogun State practically is like the manufacturing hub for the whole of Nigeria. They have the biggest manufacturing hub and industrial parks in the whole of Nigeria. And of course, the usual thing about Nigerians, when matters that are supposed to be thought-provoking, matters are supposed to stimulate discourses that will help us to bring about better society. Some people will turn it into an religious thing. They will try to recriminate. They will try to turn it into, oh, they did this to us, they did that to us. I am one person who is so convinced that the only person that can limit me is myself and God. There's no man, no mortal created by God, born by a woman that can limit me if I am determined to succeed. Michael Okpara did all these things 60 years ago. Desamon Bakwe and Jim Wobodo did what they did between 79 to 83, 4 years. So since 1999 till now, 26 years, what have we done in this space to revive those visions and to make things work? One of the reasons some people are used for why there are no massive industrial parks in the southeast because of access to sea and all those stuff. And it must interest you that the Apapa port is a river port. It's not a seaport. And from Apapa to Shagamu to Jebode, it's 108 kilometers. From Onne Port to Aba is about 7 kilometers. From Onne Port to Owerri is about 102 kilometers. From Onne Port to Onitsha is about 202 kilometers. If we're even supposed to dredge the Orashi River and to do a river port at Orashi, from Orashi to Onitsha is about 59 kilometers. Orashi is very close to Owerri. Orashi is very close to Aba. Orashi is very close to Umuahia. So, Desamon Bakwe, between 79 and 83, visualized and executed the Owerri Industrial Park along Onitsha Road. Jim Wobodo did a lot in that area too. So what stopped us? The governors and the private sector. I was privileged in 2019, 2020, 2021. There was this arrangement to bring in the Chinese to revive the abandoned Imo industrial layout at Onitsha Road. Till today, the successive governors have refused to do anything about it. It doesn't take any rocket science. And interestingly, most of the factories, most of the manufacturing firms within the Jebode or Shagamu are owned by Igbo. 60 to 70%, 60% of the cargo, inward cargo into Nigeria actually originates from the southeast. And it must interest us, if the governors are sincere, we can work with them. I am Nemeka Onyeka Oderiri. I work with a very vibrant team of financial engineers, investment banking executives, and technocrats that can provide them with the intellectual bulwark to drive this. See, Akwa Ibom is doing a deep sea port. Cross River is doing their own. Nothing stopped the governors of the southeast, Imo, Abia, Ebonyi, Anambra, Enugu, from coming together under the AG. They have a governor, the Southeast Governors Forum, headed by Iheonukara. Nothing stopped them coming together to stop a Southeastern Nigerian Development Corporation to dredge from Orashi, from Atlantic coast, coast to Orashi, is about 154 nautical miles. It will take about $200 million to dredge and do shoreline embankment. To do a river port as good as a papa, everything will not take us more than $1 billion. We will help them structure it under a nation's community. That's private-public partnership arrangement. The federal government is willing to support them. And, this idea that, Lagos have done, they have a papa, they have Tinkan, they've done Lekki deep support, they are doing Badagry, they are trying to stall everybody. It's not true. Let us face facts. If we decide to make Onne as attractive as Lagos, firstly, we need to bring in the facilities, the infrastructure, build it up. We need to divert traffic to that axis. We need to bring in some of the supporting players within that maritime sector. The blue economy is the great thing. 80% of goods and cargoes transported are done through the sea. Nigeria can actually do over $30 to $40 billion from the blue economy, maritime sector. That eastern corridor is a very important corridor. The governors of the southeast can actually do it. We are not asking them to bring the FAC or the hijack or the hijack. We will drive the private sector-led initiative to make that. But we must have the governors at the forefront, providing the policy and program support for these things to happen. The manufacturing industrial parks in the Sagamu Jebode as Ogun State can actually be replicated in Aba, in Okigwe, in Aba, in Owerri, in Umuahia, even in Okigwe and in Onitsha. We can create industrial parks, manufacturing parks. We can even create agro-industrial parks. I've shared with us many ways we can do this. Shared clusters, shared destiny, shared power, shared infrastructure, and everything. And we see most of the 60% of the containers that come in, we leave filled up as exports. We will grow the value chain from the upstream to the downstream to the processing to the storage. Some years back we brought in some Chinese to take over the Imo Industrial Park and to turn it, to modernize it. We are begging the governors, Southeast governors, we are pleading with you. Please, these things require discipline. It requires passionate creativity. It requires long-term vision. It's not something, I know you guys are in a hurry to impress the electorate. Most of those, I'm sorry to use this word, most of the electorate are ignorant. They believe that the only evidence of development is when you build road to their village. Road concern is you can actually build road to their village. Why not neglecting some of these things that are very, very key to economic development? No nation grows exporting raw material. Most nations that have grown, two things that drive revolutions in states that make societies grow. Number one is education. Education is very, very key and most important. When the people are lettered and educated and knowledgeable, they will appreciate what true governance is. They will appreciate the parameters for measuring good governance. They will appreciate what dividends of democracy is. And with education, they will go into, you must do manufacturing. You must build up the infrastructure to support manufacturing. Power, road, rail, transportation, and storage and distribution. The whole value chain must be represented. We can help us. There's nothing that is happening between Shagamu and Ijebode that cannot happen in Onitsha, in Owerri, in Aba. And it doesn't. In fact, I visited one of the manufacturing concerns in Mowe, owned by an Igbo man, Nesit, Climax Petroleum. The guy practically built a city in that place. It took me 11,000 steps to cover the facility the guy built. I was so marveled. 52-year-old entrepreneur. Emmanuel is a smart entrepreneur. For me, go and see what the guy did there. And in fact, when I saw what he did, I was practically in awe and I was practically crying. In awe because I admired what the guy did there. Crying because when I'm governor, or if I'm governor, I will have created enabling infrastructure, enabling support. I told him as if I was a governor, I will have put in place a place for him, put all the infrastructure in place, power, water, and ask him to relocate to my state. Definitely, there are basic things that measure economic development, economic growth. The HDIs. We must look at the right parameters. We need to grow the industrial sector of the old Eastern Nigeria. that Dr. Michael Okpara could envision between 59 and did 214-kilometer industrial belts in 6 years. If Desmond Mbakwe and Jim Nwobodo could do what they did, if they could execute the kind of things they did in 4 years, what has stopped us from 1990 now? I'm asking the governors and political leaders in the Southeast. There is no amount of investment that we want to attract, 5, 10, 20 billion, that we cannot attract. If we want to ring-fence the whole of the Southeast with a rail line linking on there to Lagos, we can do this, and we can raise it under the missions community. We can execute it under the missions community, that's private-public partnership arrangement, under a DBOT arrangement for 45 years. That pays back in 7 years. We have all these things all templated and numbered and listed out. We plead with the governors. I'm begging you. I am willing, as a person, as an investment banker, as a financial engineer, with my team, to help you guys with the intellectual support. Pro bono. Allow us to help you. There is nothing that Michael Okpara envisioned and executed in 7 years, 60 years ago, that we cannot do times 3 today. There is nothing like Desmond Mbakwe did, that Jim Nwobodo did, that we cannot execute times 10 today. The only difference is that Jim Nwobodo, Desmond Mbakwe, Michael Okpara led selflessly. They led with legacy in sight. They led with patriotism. They led with integrity. They led with the love of the people paramount in their hearts. They did not ascend the positions of power to accumulate wealth, to acquire things and buy your properties abroad and then pay school fees of their children 100 years in advance. I was discussing with one of my friends that they were asking me, Neneka, how many properties do you have in Dubai? Come, let me show you how you can make it, do investment in Dubai. And I was practically crying. People don't understand what it means to be patriotic. Yes, I know that investing in Dubai properties will give me more security of funds, will protect my assets more. But I also know that investing the same monies I will put in Dubai property, $1 million, $2 million, to do agro parks in the southeast of Nigeria, yes, with all the risk, will help me to create jobs and add more value to my people than exporting the scarce resources that we have here to Dubai, to Maryland, to Cayman Island, to South Africa, to Canada, and to other places where we have stashed away our resources. Between 1999 to 2025, it's estimated that over $400 billion have been stolen and looted out of this country to other safe havens. Does it make sense? We must ask ourselves this question. What shall we be remembered for when we are long gone from this part of eternity? Michael Okpara is forever revered. Desmond Mbakwe is forever recognized as one man who lived for his people, the crying governor who loved his people. Jim Nwobodo still remained a great man of legacy. What would these governors be remembered who are on the saddle? Alex, which is a smart governor, a first-class graduate, a former banker, Charles Oludo, former CBN governor, a professor of economics. Can't we all come together? Peter Boy is an entrepreneur. We can come together and fashion out a blueprint. Over the last 3 days, I've been reviewing again the economic blueprints of Michael Okpara. Mind-blowing. We can improve on what Michael Okpara did. We can create massive wealth. We can grow the economy of the 5 Southeast states from the current level of $60 billion GDP to $500 billion GDP over the next 5 to 8 years. We can do it. What is wrong with us, for crying out loud? I have come up with it. We can build agro-industrial parks of nothing less than 300 hectares in every electoral ward in the Southeast. Agro-industrial parks that can give us something like 10 to 15 billion naira from every ward. We can build up an economy that generates nothing less than $50 billion annually in revenue in the Southeast. We can create the infrastructure that will support it. Power, rail, sea, access to the international sea. We don't need to wait for Abuja. We will play the right politics. We will attract the right funding. It's all about thinking, creativity, and we have it all in our minds. All we need is let these governors calm down. Calm down and allow us to drive this process. We are willing to serve pro bono. God help us. God help us.